Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad Amma ba'd. There's one contention that some atheists they bring regards to the argument that we presented, and there's the argument of the temporal causation. The limited thing is dependent upon another limited thing, dependent upon another limited thing, and we regress it back to the Big Bang. And that argument is that you cannot ask what caused the Big Bang, as the Big Bang was the cause of time. And if you ask what caused the Big Bang, then you are assuming that there was a before the Big Bang, meaning a before time, because they say Big Bang caused time and causality exists prior to the effect in time. Therefore, if there's no before the Big Bang, then there is no cause of the Big Bang. And this argument has been popularized by well-known physicists, people like Stephen Hawking and Roger Penrose. And the basic argument that they're presenting is effectively saying that it's an illogical question, what caused the Big Bang? It is like saying, what is north of North Pole? Asking the question, what is before the Big Bang or before time existed? So, just some background I think is important to understand what we mean by the Big Bang. Originally, scientists, they held the belief that the universe was in what they called, or they had a theory called the steady state theory of the universe. And this held that the universe always existed, was eternal in time and eternal in size. So it was infinite in time, infinite in size, always existed. But then we had observations that came in and demonstrated that the universe was expanding. Then a Catholic priest, who was also a physicist, known as George Lemaitre, proposed the idea that the universe was not infinite eternal existence or had an infinite eternal existence, but rather the universe had a beginning, what later became known as the Big Bang theory. The theory obviously had some controversy at the time, as it overhauled established scientific beliefs that the universe had always existed. And now we have a theory and later observational evidence like the redshift or the uniformity of the microwave background radiation throughout the universe that stated that the universe and all that existed within it had a beginning. And thus this raised a number of theological questions in the mind of a number of scientists and also challenged some of the presuppositions that atheists had. If the universe hasn't always existed and it began to exist at the Big Bang, then doesn't it raise the question, who caused the universe? And thus raise the greater possibility of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, belief in God, according to these scientists. And this, as a point, was something that the atheists have always tried to wrestle with ever since. It was much easier to claim that the universe had always existed, therefore there was no cause to the universe. But now that we can demonstrate the universe had a beginning 13.78 billion years ago, now atheists are looking at other possible explanations as a way to get around the inevitable conclusion that a creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exists. And that's why some atheists now, they say that the universe that we reside in is actually part of a larger cosmos, a larger set of universes that exist outside, the multiverse theory, which we've addressed in previous videos. Others have attempted to claim that the universe began from nothing, and that supposedly the science points to this fact that something can come from nothing, and we'll address this in the next video regards to this question. And others still claim that we cannot ask what caused the Big Bang because this implies that time existed before the Big Bang. So we can only say the Big Bang existed. We can't say, well, what was before the Big Bang or what caused the Big Bang, because asking the question of cause, according to them, is saying that cause exists temporarily before the effect, and therefore there was no before according to what they're saying and proposing in regards to this. So I think intuitively, naturally, we look at this question about the universe, the Big Bang, and we naturally ask the question, well, what caused it? Why is it, why is this temporal thing that began to exist, that we termed contingent, what is it necessarily dependent upon? What does it depend upon? other than itself. So it's natural. It's a natural question that we seek to ask. And obviously, we've addressed these questions before, how we come from the conclusion that contingent possible beings exist to the conclusion that a necessary, eternal, independent creator exists. But what they're trying to do is now to stop us from asking this question, to say you can't ask that question because it's an illogical question. So the first thing is that their argument that causality, the argument about you can't ask what caused the Big Bang because you're assuming time before the Big Bang, presupposes that causality always occur prior, in effect, in time. So you have the effect, then you have a cause. So if I was to hit a cue ball, the white ball, towards a black ball, before the black ball moves, the white ball had to move and hit it. So here, the pool ball, the white ball, was the cause, and it occurred prior to the effect, which was movement of the black ball. Similarly, if you have heat, and then sometime later, you'll have the boiling effect of water, or the boiling of water. So the heat is the cause that occurred prior to in time to the effect, which is the boiling point of water, or the boiling of water, which occurred afterwards. However, causality doesn't have to occur within a temporal setting. So you don't have to have this situation where a cause occurs before the effect. This is an assumption. In fact, we can have situations where causality, like on a quantum level, the cause can come after the effect according to certain observations in regards to this. But on a philosophical level, or a rational level, we can demonstrate many examples of when a cause and effect occur at the same moment in time. For example, if you sit on a cushion and the sitting on the cushion causes the indentation of the cushion, this effect occurs simultaneous with the cause. So when you sit on a cushion and the cushion depresses, indents down, that effect occurred at the same moment as the cause, which was the sitting on the cushion. So it's rationally plausible to accept that even if there's no time, the way they define time that is, before the Big Bang, that there was a cause that existed distinct from the effect, but the cause and the effect occurred at the same moment. So you can have a situation where a cause and effect occur at the same moment, but they're distinct from one another. So we can still affirm the fact that the universe and the Big Bang required a cause. So when we say that what caused the Big Bang or came before the Big Bang, we are using the term before in what we term an ontological sense. That is, what occurred beyond the distinctiveness or beyond the effect that we see of the Big Bang. Otherwise, if we can't ask this question of what the Big Bang was dependent upon, then we'd fall into a contradiction. On the one hand, we'd be accepting that the Big Bang is a contingent thing, is a thing that's possible. As we said about contingent things, they are possible beings, meaning that they had a beginning, that they have specific attributes, that these attributes are not necessary. They can be other forms of attributes. They have certain limitations as opposed to other limitations. They follow rules and regulations and patterns. They don't have to exist. Therefore, they're a possible being. So we're saying on the one hand, the Big Bang is a contingent thing that follows rules and regulations, and that the effect of this Big Bang, the creation of this Big Bang, or the effect of the Big Bang, had absolutely no cause. We don't ask the question. It makes no sense. It's like we are just simply accepting, giving an exemption to the Big Bang when it follows the same rules as everything else that we perceive within the universe. Not only that, but scientists no longer use this argument in an attempt to claim that we cannot theorize at the very least of what occurred before the Big Bang. Even Roger Penrose was one of those physicists who argued you can't ask what occurred before the Big Bang because you can't have time before the universe began. But he himself has changed his position. He's actually accepted that he's changed his position. Roger Penrose is a professor at Oxford University, and he argued that concentric circles discovered in the background microwaves of the universe provides evidence of events that took place before the universe came into being. So he's saying if you study the background radiation, the microwave background radiation, that that there's implications that indicate that there was some existence before the Big Bang, maybe another universe. Similarly, other physicists seek to ask this question: what caused or what occurred before the Big Bang, or what caused the Big Bang? For example, Harvard-educated professor Kaku states that the universe and the Big Bang, in his quotes, it came from a pre-existing state. Similarly, Dr. Singh, who's a distinguished research fellow at the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics, Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, he said that the Big Bang came from a previous universe that collapsed upon itself. Similarly, Professor Smolin from the same institute, he argued that the Big Bang arose from a previous universe that created a black hole. So the universe collapsed upon itself, created a black hole, and then from that came the universe that we live in. Similarly, Dr. Neil Turek said that there exist two colliding membrane structures that caused the Big Bang. So whatever occurred prior to the Big Bang, even if they discover, whether it's membrane structures, whether it is a black hole, whether it is another universe, what they would be pointing to is another limited, dependent, contingent thing or contingent being. So as a result, we would still ask the question, what caused that? Or what is that dependent upon? If it's limited, it's dependent. If it's dependent, it requires something to bring it into existence. And so because we have affirmed that there is an impossibility of an infinite regress, meaning one thing dependent upon another thing, dependent upon another thing, that stretches back forever, that's impossible, then that indicates very clearly that there must be something that caused or that is independent that creates the rest of those limited dependent things within that chain. So there has to be ultimately either a independent cause, or if they want to discover something other than that, it's a limited thing. But if it's a limited thing, then it fits within a chain or a cycle, and therefore it cannot self-sustain itself. It won't exist until something independent, unlimited, either creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, comes and brings those things into existence. So even scientists who, originally atheists would argue this point, but even scientists theorize on what occurred before the Big Bang and do not consider it an invalid or an illogical question to ask. Furthermore, this is the third point. When we say time began, what do we mean by time? Einstein said time has no independent existence apart from the order of events by which we measure it. And what he meant by this is when we sense time, what we are sensing is change. That's how we know time exists. So for example, if you've got a watch, you will know the time exists because the seconds hands move around and the minutes and the hour hands that move around the clock face. Similarly, if you didn't have a clock, then maybe you had a sundial, you would notice the shadow on the sundial through the change of the rising and the setting of the sun. Or if you didn't have that ability, you would look at maybe the decay of certain atoms. So what we all look at when we look at time is we're measuring change of things. And when we look at change is a product of limited, dependent, contingent things. So when we talk about time existing, we are basically saying that limited, dependent things exist, they undergo change, and therefore that's how we understand time. This is one theory or one view towards time. So in that sense, when we ask what occurred before the universe, or what occurred before the Big Bang, what we're asking, or what is the Big Bang dependent upon, what we're really asking is what limited dependent things are dependent upon. Yeah? What are limited things dependent upon? So it's a valid question to ask, and it's not really implying that there is some objective view of time, either some time that we cannot escape from and that we have to move from one point to another point. Rather, in this concept of time, time is a product of the universe rather than something that is simply exists. So when we ask what occurred before time, or what occurred before the Big Bang, or what was the Big Bang created upon, then what we're asking is what is the dependency of limited things? What are they dependent upon? So to summarize, those who claim it's illogically to ask the question what caused the Big Bang are incorrect. First reason, that the cause doesn't have to occur temporarily or temporally before the effect, like the cushion example, sitting on the cushion. Secondly, scientists even like Roger Penrose, who originally proposed this argument that you can't ask what caused the Big Bang, now accept the validity of this question of what caused the universe to exist, and did it arise from a previous state. And thirdly, time as we understand it is related to change. If we observe in limited objects, and what we're asking then, when we're asking what caused limited object, is that we are asking what caused the limited objects, or what caused limited contingent dependent beings. Therefore, what caused the Big Bang is a valid question, and that leads us still to the same conclusion, that there must be an independent, necessary being whom we call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.